Good morning. Welcome back to a new class. Today we'll be discussing migraines. Before, it was understood as a blood vessel dilation to do with blood vessels, but now it's understood this condition is or disorder is understood as a hyper-excitable brain disorder. Migraine is more than just a normal headache, pulsating, throbbing, piercing, having very intense pain that lasts for 4 to 72 hours and it can leave you drained afterwards, like completely fatigued and exhausted. There is a thing called migraine hangovers, which occurs after the migraine pain goes away. Hyper excitable brain disorder. What does that mean? I'll draw. This is your head. Okay, this is your neck. This is your head. I'll just draw your eyes here. This is your eyes. This is your mouth and your nose, whatever. And then you have a nerve which goes around like this, which senses stimuli. Okay, so you have nerves around your face and your head that essentially is sensitive to stimuli, whether it's sight, smell, or sound. Your brain essentially has like a wrapper. Okay, so imagine this. This is your brain over here, and this nerve are like a wrapper around it around your brain, which this wrapper around your brain has nerves, vessels, meninges. These nerves, the supersensor nerves, this orange part specifically, is known as the trigeminal nerve, which picks up on the stimuli in your environment. So that's all in all the understanding. Now, your brain your brain is over here. Your brain has a baseline threshold, okay? The rate at which your brain neurons fire. I promise I won't get too scientific, but I'll try my best to explain it in a simple way. The wrapper, there's a threshold to that, okay? The speed at which your neurons fire. So let's say these are neurons, and um, they're all firing due to external stimuli coming in from the outside. There's a fire of neurons around in the wrapper. The faster the fire, the more pain essentially you'll experience. So faster the fire, the more pain. The slower the rate, the less pain, or the easier it is for your brain to process. Okay, so less pain, the slower it fires. Okay. In migraines, this is known as a hyperexcitable brain disorder, which means your threshold is very low and it's very easy for the stimuli in your environment to hit the threshold very fast, quickly, more easily, and hence the more pain you have because you're more sensitive. The higher the baseline, okay, the higher the baseline, the more slowly the neurons will fire and the less pain or the more processing there is for your brain to not get hyper excited by the external stimuli in the environment. Now, the second part is the pain. Okay, so migraine is usually on one side of the kind of the brain, the head. So this entire area with this one side will start having this wave-like pain. Okay, this throbbing pain, pulsating pain. The pain will travel like a wave throughout the nerves, the small nerves area of your supersensor. Okay, at that time there is a lot of inflammatory substances that fire. That's why you have pain. Okay, so you have inflammation firing through your trigeminal nerve, hence you have pain. So inflammation is the second part. The first part is your baseline vulnerability. Because your baseline is already low, you are more easily susceptible to external stimuli, zigzag lines, change of lights, different types of sounds, etc. You're more sensitive to it, and hence your brain picks that up. You get a sensation, throbbing sensation, because of the inflammatory substance released throughout your brain wrapping. Your blood vessels dilate, etc. And the pain happens because, imagine this is your blood vessel, okay, throughout your head, and there is protein, because there is a dilation, there's an expansion, and there's blood like throbbing through it. There's a leak of protein. Okay. Your blood vessels essentially become porous, and there is a leak of protein and fluids out of your blood vessels. I'm just going to draw this as a leak. Okay. And when this leak happens, you get inflammatory substances to essentially save that. Okay, your body produces inflammation to protect you. Inflammatory substances. There's substance P, there's other substances as well. It's produced to mediate the pain and manage this leakage. And because of that, you get pain. So I've explained two parts. One is the trigger and one is your baseline vulnerability. And hence you get the migraine pain. Okay, because your blood vessels start leaking, essentially. This is a summary of all you need to know about migraines. Now, before you have migraines, you usually have preliminary symptoms. Okay, so what does that mean? You have yawning, you have mood changes, hormonal shifts, craving for food. Okay, so these are the symptoms you usually get before a migraine happens. After 24 to 48 hours, you start getting the migraine and you start getting the pain, which lasts for 4 to 72 hours in general. Once you finish with the pain, once the pain goes away, it essentially leaves you drained. Now, why does this happen? Why do we get this pain? Why is our baseline vulnerability already, why is our threshold so low? And it's because of many reasons. We'll discuss that. We'll also discuss the emotional part today, because that is a greater player than the physical part. Okay, so let's dive in to why migraines occur. Before I do that, I want to help you visualize. Imagine a forest that is dry forest, and then we have a rainforest. Complete polar opposites. Visualize what a dry forest will be like. Visualize what a rainforest will be like. Dry forest will have no moisture, okay, no humidity. So it's going to put low moisture, water, humidity, okay? And rainforest will be the complete opposite. So it will be rich in water. There will be the ground. Ground will hold water because there's a lot of trees. Okay. I don't know if you know this, but trees act like a sponge underneath the ground, and they hold a lot of water. Because there are roots, there's a lot of water retention. There is no water retention. There's hardly any trees, lack of diversity in nature. So you would see only one sort of plant or one sort of tree. So it's going to put orange. So you would see only one sort of tree that would be planted. There would be no shade. Okay. So not a lot of trees, not a lot of shade. Whereas if you see like a rainforest, you have like canopies. These trees act like a shade for the ground to be cooled. Okay, so heat doesn't generate. And the reason why I'm telling you this analogy is because dry forest is much more likely to catch fires than a rainforest. What is fire? Fire is pain. Fire is inflammation. And that's the same thing in a migraine. The fire is invisible. You don't really see the migraine coming, but once it comes, it's like a catalyst to the pain. The pain levels at which the migraine occurs are extreme, okay? And they happen very silently. There's an accumulation of your lack of rhythms in life, your low hydration, low magnesium, low moisture in your body, etc. And that accumulates, and suddenly like a spark comes from external stimuli, light or smell, and then you get throbbing pain. You get the onset of throbbing pain, which is extremely fast, and it's like a cascade. Same thing for a dry forest. When there's lack of moisture, there's lack of humidity, there is no canopies, not a lot of trees, there is no water retention, there is no cleanup of fungi, debris, woods, leaves. Okay, in a rainforest, there's a faster cleanup. So there's like a huge recycling going on because of the microbes, the worms, the insects, the ants. Okay, they all work in cohesion to keep the rainforest running. The more diversity there is, the more larger the animal kingdom there is, the more species there are, the more sustainable the rainforest is. The more diversity you have in your gut microbiome, the more stronger your immune system will be. So same thing for a rainforest. Because you have ants, because you have worms, because you have insects, they eat up the leaves that fall from the tree. They eat up and they decompose. The fungi decompose all the debris, the dried leaves that get accumulated. Okay, so there's a recycling process, decomposition process that goes on naturally. Decompose naturally in the rainforest. Whereas in a dry forest, there is not a lot of diversity of insects, animals, or plants, or worms, etc. And that's why there's not much decomposition. So you have things that fall from the tree. Okay, so let's say leaves fall from the tree and they just get accumulated over time. And later on, when there is a wind, there's a stimuli, let's say the wind is the stimuli. The wind essentially acts as a a catalyst for the fire to start and to travel into the entire forest. Okay, so you have everything sort of gets burned down because there is a lack of cohesion, there's a lack of humidity, there's a lack of moisture in the dry forest. These are the factors that keep a rainforest resilient than a dry forest. And the fire is like a migraine pain. That's pretty much a nature mimicry in us of how a rainforest won't catch fires and how a dry forest will catch a fire and burn down. And once it burns down, you are left with nothing. And there's like ashes and even more dryness than ever, even more fatigue than ever. Integrity, rhythms meaning the plants go to sleep at the same time. There is light rain that happens every day. The plants wake up. There's birds, there's nitrogen, there is migration. The birds are providing phosphorus, nitrogen to the soil, and the soil holds water from the light rain that happens. There are natural rhythms, seasons that the rainforest goes through, and it's resilient. Whereas the dry forest, because there's no water already, birds, animals, they don't come there, and hence it's much more likely to catch fires because again, there's no shade, there is no decomposition of the leaves, and there is no birds providing a safe ecosystem for the forest. That's all in all an understanding and a nature mimicry of migraines and why migraines happen. Back in the day, ancient civilization, whether it was Indian, Chinese, Egyptian, Mayan, Mesoamerican, all of them believed and they had sort of this understanding that when you get a migraine, it's an evil spirit that has essentially possessed you. Okay, so because people used to explain the pain, right? They used to be like, it's stabbing, it leaves me dizzy, it makes me nauseous, it's stabbing, throbbing, pulsating. It's like a battle sort of going on in your head. And it's very painful. It's hard to bear. You can't really function. You become irritable. You want to cry. Okay, so there's a lot of pain and it's like a war going inside your head because of that pain. So imagine these terms being used back in the day. People, you would imagine these terms would kind of indicate an evil spirit possession. And just like we discussed this, the evil possession, what does that mean? What does it mean to be possessed or taken control over? So like we discussed in the last classes, live in three realms. So we have heaven, we have earth, and we have underworld. You can call it evil, but it's not really evil. It's also required. Okay, misery is required in your life to help you understand happiness. There needs to be polarity. There needs to be duality in our life to help us value the light, the goodness. We live in three realms, and our consciousness, sattva, rajas, and tamas. In Ayurveda, these are three mental states. Sattva is peace, purity. You see that in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, you experience a level of peace, okay? Especially around 4 a.m., 5 a.m. before the sunrise. There is calmness, there is serenity, there is silence. And as you go through your day, you go through rajas, which is movement, which is action, spark, energy. You have most energy around lunchtime. And when it gets dark, sun goes down, you feel tired. You feel there's inertia, there is darkness, there is lack of energy, essentially. So that's tamas. So the day goes through that day as well. And the body goes through that. So when you are possessed by an evil spirit, it simply means you're much more in the tamas area. It simply means you're much more in darkness than you should be. And to get out of that darkness, you need to do things like meditation, like chanting, like mantras. And that's what people did to get out of the evil, out of the head. Okay. They took out time for themselves to sit down, to do kirtans, to play music, to pray, to chant, etc., which was accompanied by herbs and Nasya therapy. Just before bed, you can also do this if you have a headache. It's very effective. You get around 2 to 4 drops into your nostril, just like leaning back with your head tilted on your bed, and just drop warm, very lukewarm. So not hot or warm, like slightly warm. A2 cow ghee. Okay, so there's ghee, and you can also do sesame oil. So either one of them, like lukewarm, make sure it's organic, make sure it's natural. You don't want any adulteration to go into your head. So it's called Nasya therapy, and you put in both nostrils, you wait for around a minute or two, and then you can just lie down and go to sleep. And that's really effective for migraines or headaches because it lubricates and it helps the evil exit that's trapped inside your head, exit through your nostrils, essentially. We'll move on to the psychological understanding of all of this combined, what it means to experience pain in your head, and for it to stay there for a lengthy period of time, and you can't really function because of it. So let's look at the rainforest. How and what decomposition, canopies, shade, rich micro diversity of the forest, what does all of that, water retention, what does that all of that mean in terms of the human body? Because that will give us an understanding, and it will decode how to not catch a fire in our body, how to not get pain because of migraine. Yeah, and that is our answer essentially. When you have lack of water in your body, you are much more likely to get migraines. Okay, this is scientifically documented as well. When you have low magnesium, when you have low serotonin, which is your happy hormone, your protein, the foods that you eat. Tryptophan is an amino acid found in protein. It converts to serotonin in your gut. 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut, small intestine, and that is essentially one of the key hormones for supporting or improving migraines. So happiness, and then also sleep, okay, melatonin. People, migrainers or people with migraine, usually don't sleep on time. Okay, there is no rhythm in their life. It's all irregular. And this is the first key component of migraine, okay, which is irregularity. Irregular. Apart from the water, we'll come to that, but that's one understanding. But this is the major foundation of your healing from migraines. Okay, it's becoming regular, being in rhythm. Being in rhythm is crucial to not catch a fire, to not burn down. Okay, so what does irregularity mean? Irregularity means you're not taking care, you're not setting boundaries, you're not sleeping on time, you're not waking up on time, you don't really care about your body. All you care about is external things, whether it's your job, whether it's your family, people, whatever it is. You only care about that. You don't really care about what time you go to bed, what time you wake up. You yourself don't really matter, and hence your boundaries are very easy. They're very easy to step over by yourself and other people. So lack of boundaries, lack of rhythm, it's all irregularity. Whether it's in your meals, whether it's sleeping, it's the same thing. You won't have meals on time because you don't really care about when you eat, etc. Because of this, your baseline for brain wrapper is low, and you have a faster firing of neurons. So irregularity is first thing. The next thing is moisture. So I'm just going to put water. Moisture is water. This also means sweating, exercising and sweating, releasing moisture, intake of moisture. And this also means sex. Sex is actually it's part of moisture. It's also part of diversity in your daily life. Okay. Because you neglect sex, because you neglect intimacy, you don't really pay importance to yourself, your pleasures, again, irregularity, pleasures, you end up experiencing pain. Sex is it's actually one of the greatest healers for migraines if done right. If you do sex when you're low energy, when you're stressed, it can cause a headache. So it can go the opposite way if you don't do it right. But if you ensure that you have sufficient energy levels and you're not drained and you're taking out time for yourself to feel pleasure, orgasm, that is all a part of this. And in fact, 60% of people show that their migraines completely go away after having sex. And almost 90% show that the symptoms reduced, the pain reduced of migraine, okay? Pleasure, serotonin. Okay, like we discussed, serotonin is low. And then we also have GABA. I'll explain how all of this is linked once I explain that. GABA is a neurotransmitter that is like a brake that helps with the slowing down of the neurons. And it's one of the key players as well, like serotonin, your happiness. It also relaxes you. So if you have anxiety, if you have insomnia, it's highly likely that, and by the way, with migraines, there's a lot of risk factors. Like if you do have depression and anxiety, you're more likely to get a migraine. If you have celiac disease, if you're a woman, you're 3 times more likely than men to get a migraine. Genetics is a major contributor. Oversleeping, your lifestyle, again, as we discussed, irregular meals, irregular sleep, certain types of foods, even during a menopause or during menstrual cycles, hormonal shifts happen, they trigger, and they work as a catalyst for migraine. Certain medications like oral contraceptives can all trigger and put this vulnerability low, the threshold low. Okay, so you're more vulnerable. As we were coming to understanding irregularity, moisture, a lack of diversity, it's going to put diversity. Diversity It's in people, it's in your experiences, it's what you're learning. Your understanding, as we discussed in IBS, your exposure to hobbies, your exposure to different types of curiosities, whatever you're curious about, following that and going into that, understanding that, learning new things, experiencing new things, traveling, meeting new people, experiencing new friendships, they all play a major role in making you diverse, make your brain diverse, reducing stress in your life, essentially. Okay. And hence improving your threshold. Okay. The more diversity you have, the more higher your threshold of pain is. The reason why you're getting migraines is because you're not paying attention to yourself. You're not aware of what you want, who you are, where you're going, where you came from, noticing yourself and stopping. There is a lot that life demands of you. There's a lot that life expects from you, but that's all secondary. That's what I want you to inculcate moving forward in your life if you have migraines, is understanding that you are the core, the center, you're the heart of your life. And life comes from you rather than you living up to life's expectations. So you decide and you dictate how life will be for you. The more you set boundaries, the more you have rhythms in your life, the more you sleep on time, the more you have good food, such as yogurt, which helps with serotonin and GABA synthesis, and food rich in proteins, more natural foods. Okay, the more cleaner your diet is, the more, again, healthy your gut will be, and the more serotonin is produced in your gut. The more you get sunlight, the more serotonin is produced in your gut, vitamin D synthesis, etc. Again, serotonin is, imagine, the sun, and melatonin is the moon. Migraineurs have both hormones low. Okay, so you need serotonin to produce melatonin in the body to help you go to sleep. So you need sunlight. Wake up, watch the sunrise. You can't keep going through life with just meeting everybody's expectations, not taking care of yourself. Guess what migraine actually does? It puts your attention to your head. It puts your attention to the pain. The pain controls your attention. But if you paid attention in the first place, you wouldn't have that pain. If you paid attention to yourself, if you took care of yourself, you wouldn't have that pain. You would essentially recover from migraines. You wouldn't need medications. And guess what? Again, medications, they suppress your pain. They put your pain threshold even lower. Next onset you have of migraine, it will be much more stronger, much more chronic. And it gets worse and worse because your threshold keeps coming down. Small things like a light change can set off immense amounts of pain. That's how sensitive you are. But if you want to be resilient, okay, if you want to be resilient, if you want to have shade in your life that cools your body down, what is shade? Okay, what is decomposition? Okay, shade is people in your life protecting you. Shade is intimacy. It's your control over your safety. If you don't feel safe, if you don't feel, and people make you safe, your house makes you feel safe. Separation from people puts you in a more vulnerable space, essentially. So ensuring that you have intact, and all of this, like it means one thing, okay? It's not all different, it's just different components, but they all act for the same thing. They all act for the life of the rainforest. They all act because the rainforest needs it. Okay, so you need safety, you need protection, you need intimacy, love. They make you feel safe. As we discussed in anxiety, your amygdala, which is your fear center, sets off because you don't have love in your life. Love, intimacy protects you. That can come from plants, that can come from animals, that can come from people. Nature is also people. We are humans and we are made of 5 elements. And the 5 elements come from nature: the water, fire, earth, air, and space. It's all within us. So we are nature as well. So if you spend time with nature, which means people, you'll naturally be stress-free, again, there are some parasites in humans as well. Like I'm not saying everybody's good. There are human beings that are not good. That are genuinely evil. We don't really see that because we're not exposed to the understanding. But there are people in this world that we also interact with that are not good human beings, and we can sense that, we can know that. In nature, there are parasites as well. They're not good things, but they uh, ensure that we see the goodness in other people. Okay, bad people ensure that we value good people in our life. And we have gratitude for the good people. We know we can witness that because there is darkness. We can see that one light that is in our life. Be exposed to that light. Be with that light more. The people that are good in your life, be with them more and not the parasites. Stay away from the parasites. So You know how you go on in the day, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of fire, right? There's energy. That's all heat. At night, you cool down, you relax. And if you don't have a night ritual, again, that's something that you should inculcate, whether it's reading, whether it's going for a walk in moonlight, okay, for after like a dinner, going for a stroll, 10 to 20 minutes. Just watch the stars. Just watch the moon. Your life will start changing. You'll start relaxing more. It's actually really unfortunate that we live in societies and houses, full individual apartments, rooms. Back in the day, if you looked at how houses were designed, they used to have a veranda. Yeah, the house, they used to have a veranda. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that well, but we'll just play with it. So imagine this is a house, okay? It's a square shape usually, and then we have different sections of the house. These are different rooms, okay? And in the middle, there's empty space, okay? And there's like a tulsi plant usually over here in the Indian thing, there's tulsi plant. Okay. And then you have in the center, there's so much space, and you have like a house. This is the most healthiest way of living life, this home. If you look at the Colosseum, the Rome Colosseum, okay, there's a circle. And the reason why you need space in the middle is to feel open, is to feel free, is to walk around, is to feel relaxed. You need space. We have the space. We have the sky, which is space. If you look up into the sky, you feel relaxed almost instantly. Just look at the clouds, how they move. They will instantly relax you. Ancient civilization, people who back in the day, even in India today, there's houses. If you go to Jaipur, ancient castles, forts, they all designed like this. They have sections around, and in the center, there's free space to roam around, to play, to walk around. This is designed as per Vastu as well. Vastu is feng shui in Vedic culture. As much as you need people and diversity and life, even the rainforest, trees, we think they're individual trees, but they're actually not. They communicate with their entire network underneath. As a fungal network underneath. Fungi is the mushrooms. And there's communication going through that entire network underneath the soil. That communication makes them strong. Moving on to the last point, which is decomposition. What does decomposition mean in your life? It means your emotional processability, your ability to process your emotions, your ability to express your emotions, your ability to dance, sing, paint, color, write, do art, whatever it is that you enjoy as an expression. Taking out time for that every night. And I know this sounds a lot, but you need to do this. Like, what is the point of living if you dedicate your life to living for other people, life expectations, etc.? What kind of life, you really have to rethink and question why you got a migraine, why you have fire, why you're having pain. And migraine helps you do that. It stops you. It puts you on hold because that's what you need most. You need to stop. You need to take a break. Even though there's so much chaos in your life, you need to just hit the brake, GABA, hit the brake and take out time for yourself. Each day should include time at night with your family, with the sky, with nature, with art, reading, emotional expression, at least 2 hours. When you wake up in the morning, do something. Go for a walk. You can sweat as well. It's very healthy if you sweat. Meditation in the morning. And you can go about your day in the day. Like, just do whatever you want. Make sure you eat on time. Make sure you hydrate well. And naturally, you won't get migraines. Naturally, you'll become more resilient. If you feel overwhelmed by society, and it's a lot going on in your life, it's the best time to take a break, go on a holiday. You have to leave your environment because that environment is conducive for your migraine. Your environment dictates your health. And if you let your environment control you, you'll lose your health very fast. But if you want to take control of that environment, you have to start with yourself first. You have to understand why you're doing things that are irregular, why you're not sleeping on time, why you're not waking up on time, why you're not taking care of yourself first. Question, write it down. So these conditions, we think that they're bad. We just want to get rid of them. Just taking a pill, get rid of it, move on. They don't work like that. They're here to teach you something. Every condition in your body is here to teach you something. It's your learning experience to understand yourself better. So sit with the pain because your body is indicating that you do that, and really try and feel the pain. This is so unorthodox, but I want you to sit with the pain and just feel it. Just feel the sensation. Pay attention to it, observe it. And no matter how painful it is, just sit through it and see how you come out the other side. That pain will teach you, and it'll be a reminder that you're the most important thing. in your life, and that you don't have to fulfill expectations because they are crossing your boundaries. You need to set boundaries so you have space within you. These are all metaphors for life. You have space to be free. It all comes down to how you want to live your life. We don't really sit down and ever question how we're living our life. We never, we just keep going and we keep going, and we have things designed in our society to keep us going, but we never sit down and just be like, why am I running? Why am I chasing something? Why am I doing this for someone? Why is that person behaving that way? Why am I behaving a certain way? Pay attention. Be aware to what's going on in your life from a third person, bird's eye view. If there was a bird watching you, how would it observe how you're living life? And then from that third person, and you can't be harsh on yourself. That's also one thing. It's not self-sabotaging. It's very important. From when you're watching from a bird's eye view, watch it from a non-judgmental perspective. Okay, watch yourself, don't judge it, and just work and understand how you can improve, how you can grow from who you are, how you can be a completely different person within 30 days. You got time for yourself at night, have a routine to unwind, to cool down. Okay? Within 30 days, you'll start seeing a major difference in your life. You'll start having beauty, which is a tulsi plant that thrives in between this environment. Last but not the least, if you do have sex, ensure you don't have it on an empty stomach or after eating a heavy meal. Take time, 2-3 hours, and then have sex, not in between that, because that's more likely to cause a headache. So do it properly and don't do it half-hearted again. Very important. Mixing jalebi or a sweet like honey inside yogurt can really help with migraines. That's another traditional home remedy, by the way, if you wanted to help with if you wanted help with the headache instantly. These are a few things that you can do to help your migraine. Ensure you have good amounts of B2, B12, B6 in your diet, healthy amounts of magnesium, healthy amounts of protein, as I discussed earlier, feverfew, butterbur, and ginger. These are all good 3 herbs to help when you're having an onset of migraine and also preventing an onset of migraine. Giving yourself love by massaging your own body, helping you feel safe, cooling you down. Even just like things like washing your feet with warm water at night and just drying it and going to bed after that, it really helps with relaxing your entire body. Let's just have a look at a simple mathematical equation of migraines, which is accumulation of emotions, which is debris, which is your leaves, which is the twigs that get accumulated emotions, plus irregularity, lack of union, okay, plus lack of love, union, and safety. Okay, it's all the same thing. And then finally, a trigger, light, sound, smell equals migraine, which is fire and pain, inflammation in your body. This is your baseline vulnerability that makes you weak. You need to learn to process your emotions by taking out time for yourself, speaking, expressing art at night, going for a walk, journaling, reflecting. Okay, you don't have to do everything. You just have to do one thing and do it right. It's just an act of self-love, which is the same thing as this: intimacy, sex, being with other people, being with friends, etc. It reduces your stress in your life, and ensuring that you have a regular rhythm, eating at the right time, having sleep at the right times. All of this ensures that your rainforest is resilient, and then any triggers that come from the environment are secondary and they don't really affect you because your baseline vulnerability is already high. So the migraine won't happen then. It's an equation. It's just an understanding. This is what sets your boundaries. This is what sets your baseline. If you don't have this in place, your GABA levels, your serotonin levels, your melatonin levels won't be in place, hormones, and hence you'll be easily excited. Your brain, the wrapper around your brain will be easily hyper excited, excitable disorder, and you'll get an onset of pain and inflammation. So I hope this made sense. I hope this helped you understand, give you a framework to work upon and live your life a certain way that you want to live, instead of life teaching you how to live or dictating your life. It should be the other way around. That comes from pausing. It comes from reflecting. It comes from understanding what you need, clarity in life. What are your values in life, that you can't. Your values create your boundaries. So if you have values, they will protect you. There'll be a canopy. There'll be a shade so people don't cross your boundaries. You yourself don't cross your boundaries. Understand your values, pay attention to that. And that will provide you space to nurture and grow naturally and as a human. So have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. The next topic will be on constipation. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next week.